talking to the Queen of the Visas and the King of Insurance this evening, and other Dream Team members joining us shortly. But Debbie, thank you so much. James, who I can see from the last session who were here, that was wonderful. Thank you very much indeed for sharing your personal information, not your personal insight, your personal experience about being a retiree here in Portugal. Laronda, thanks for being here, and you're on the last call as well. I didn't get to see the cat moment, I'm glad to say. But there is still a chance tonight. I think if you're watching gallery view, I think there's pet sitting still going on with house sitting with Laronda. So good evening to you. And I think we are live now out there on YouTube. So ask any questions you've got in YouTube, and especially Expats Portugal Premium members over here on Zoom. Get your questions into the chat ASAP. And I think our cultural question to conclude tonight, I'm not wishing the time away, but I think I'm going to be asking about ideal places to retire to in Portugal, according to our Portuguese panelists here this evening. So a bit of a heads up for you there. Gilda, let's start with you. Good evening to you. How are you? What's it looking like in the world of the visas? I see the government, or the Prime Minister, was he not opening a few of these new centres that are going to help with processing of visas and
Uh, yes, yes, we hope so. But this is for the processes that were already online waiting.
Oh, okay. All right. So, good, but not brilliant.
Yeah,
little
it's
reservation
some
there.
improvements.
Right.
So
Okay. And anything else to tell us from the IMA point of view, and how's life in the office been this week?
it was very busy. We had a big event today. Yes, it was busy
Well,
and tired.
thank you for being here this evening. Much appreciated. And a fabulous necklace. Is that a bit of Portuguese jewelry there?
Yes, with
Okay.
hearts. Thank you.
Very
And
nice.
the
Very nice.
earrings also.
Yeah, and it matches your nail varnish. It hasn't gone unnoticed. You're perfectly coordinated this evening. So thank you very much for all the effort in hair and makeup before the Dream Team session tonight. Also fresh from hair and makeup, it's Nunu Mensch from Insurance, everybody. Good evening to you, Nunu. How's the world of insurance this evening?
Hello, good evening. Pretty stable, no news. Just one particularity that is not only about Portugal, it's across the whole EU. So we know that in USA you are used to have an umbrella policy to ensure liability coverage to several risks. But in Portugal, we cannot use that kind of insurance policies to everything that is considered, that not considered, that is settled as mandatory insurance policies, like car and property slash fire coverage. So all the time that you see that you know that you are facing a mandatory insurance policy, you need to subscribe the appropriate insurance contract. So even if you have a document, an insurance policy saying that is valid in Portugal, and I know that there are these insurance policies, it will not be allowed to use in Portugal. So be
Very
aware of this.
interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, so people might be used to that. And that is a trend, I think, globally, isn't it? That one insurance company will try and do a policy for all of your insurance need. Is that ever likely to happen? Or is it a do the EU not want that to happen here?
No, I know that in USA and also in Netherlands, there are people that has these insurance policies,
Right.
but the car must be insured through an auto insurance policy.
Yeah.
Because remember that what is insured is the car,
Yes, not
not
the person.
you or the
Yes.
drivers.
Yeah.
The same to your home, the same to the workers' compensation of the gardener or the maid that is doing the cleaning
Yeah.
at your home.
Yes.
So all of these risks are must be insured through a specific insurance policy, which is exactly the same across all insurers in Portugal. Okay.
Yeah. So the usual case of check your assumptions. Don't imagine because it's like that where you come from, it's going to be like that here in Portugal. And there may well have been a, wait, what? I need to insure the workers on my property. Could you say a little bit about that? Because that's a new thing for a lot of people coming to Portugal.
Yeah, so every time that we have someone working on our property or on our home, we must have a workers' compensation insurance policy to these people. Only if it's only a few hours a week
Yes.
working there.
So they're covered whilst they're working on your property.
Yes,
What
yes.
sort of premium are we looking at for that? No, a year, would you say, roughly
So
speaking?
it depends on the activity to insure it, but and also about the income of these professionals that they
Oh,
earn. But you can count with maybe 150, 200 euros a
for the
month,
for the year
a year, sorry, a year.
for all of the professionals. You don't have to have a separate one for each.
No, per each professional.
Oh,
Okay.
per professional. Okay.
Considering that they work like 4 hours a week at
Yes.
your property.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Very good. Thank you for that, and
Roughly
thank you
this,
for that
roughly.
insight. It is different. It's worth checking, and because assumptions can be expensive as
Mhm.
well. So, cheers, Nuno. Thank you very much. Thank you, Laronda. Yes, hair and makeup perfect for Nuno. He's flawless, of course, as we know.
Sorry, by the way, because in case of an accident of one
Yes.
of these workers, is not the insurer that will settle the indemnities and so on. In
Right.
case of not having an insurance policy, will be the judge. So don't
Oh, okay,
be aware
very
of
interesting.
this.
Yeah, and I'm glad I mentioned it because Peter's like tradespeople. What? This is a new thing. When I first heard about it, I thought, oh wow, okay, yeah, I didn't know about that. So there are questions about that immediately. I'll come back to those after we've said hello to a few of the panelists this evening or further. Dream team. There are some recent arrivals. I'm going to call you. Good evening to you, Sarah Davey. How are you this evening? Lovely to see you.
Hello. I'm a little bit under the weather, I must admit, this week,
Good on you for coming in tonight. Thank you so
yeah,
much.
but
All
with
right.
my Portuguese hat on, what I would say is that I had a great experience. My first time at the Cuff Hospital, I used the wind insurance. I contacted Camilla because I was like, what do I do? How does it
All right.
work? And they got back to me straight away. Then I booked my appointment. I got in the same day. Everyone's experience is different, but it was wonderful. I went to
Oh,
the
glad to hear it.
hospital. The woman was really helpful. There was a self-check-in, and I was struggling a little bit. The woman was really helpful. The doctor was great. Everyone was wonderful. So I've so far had a great experience in
Well,
the
very sorry to hear
month.
of your challenge, and thank you very much for being here despite being a little bit under the weather. And also lovely to hear that good news in those difficult circumstances that you were looked after beautifully.
Yeah. So definitely not a worry from the health system. If you're ill, I said having the insurance, it all works very well. Or
Very
for
good.
me, it did, and I'm sure
Right.
it will for many.
Okay, and the market under the weather? It's a bit jittery, isn't it? The run up to the US election. What's going on FX wise?
Well, I think I mentioned on the last week, there's other things that there are lots of different factors that we look at when we look at exchange rate. It's not just one thing on its own. We've talked about, obviously, there's natural disasters, there's politics, there's war, there's data like inflation data. Then they look at interest rate cuts or increases, and it's even sentiment, what the Fed will come out and say, that will move the market. There's lots of things that we take into consideration. And one of the things that we're looking at, or the team's looking at, and banks and everyone, is sort of graphs historically and trends. And what we're sort of seeing is that historically the trends are when they reach a certain level, that we might see a little bit of a rebound. It's getting a little bit close to that. So at the moment, the rates are very good. If you're selling US dollars and you're buying euros, if you look back at the last 5 years, the rates are very good. We saw the best rates we did see was in 2022. When we saw it nearly at parity, but otherwise right now we're looking at very good rates, and we could see a little bit of a rebound on that. It could become a little bit more expensive just because of the trends that we've seen in the past.
Right.
And then obviously we've got the elections coming up, and when elections happen, there's normally quite a lot of volatility. So
Yep.
what I normally say to customers is just prepare yourself and put yourself in a good position. So if you, for example, register with us, it's completely free, have a chat with the dealers. just get to understand what's your time frames, what money you've got available. It just gives you more options because things can get quite volatile.
Mhm.
And it just means we can help manage those fluctuations and manage your budgets. And you can buy your euros in advance, even if you don't have a Portuguese bank account, you can still take advantage of the rate. We've got clients who have bought maybe a quarter, a half of what they need, or the full amount. We've got tools where if you're buying property, for example, you can fix a rate for a future date. And that's quite useful because, you know, when you're buying in your home country, say America, it's different. You're buying US dollars, you know how much that property is going to cost. But in Portugal, in 12 weeks time, when you complete, that rate could be completely different and the
Yes.
exchange rate could have changed completely. So it's really kind of managing those exchange rate movements that can really make a difference on your budget that we're
And
trying to
making
help
some
with.
strategic decisions, perhaps, rather than leaving things to chance. May I suggest, Sarah, that you stay with us for 30 minutes? I'm sure you'd welcome an early finish tonight. So make sure, folks, you get your questions in early for Sarah if you have them, because I think she's saving her energy for the weekend as well in Porto, where you'll be able to meet Sarah in person up there at the Porto meetup as well. So thank you, Sarah, for being here tonight. Much appreciated. And an early finish for Sarah tonight. So get the questions in if you've got them about FX this evening. Let's go to Carolina. Carolina Muralha from Casa Portuguesa. Good evening to you.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everything is good with all.
Yeah, it is absolutely. And whenever I think of you, and say Casa Portuguesa, of course, I'm thinking of Amalia and the song Casa Portuguesa. I think I don't know what our panel have made of the news today, but another singing legend has been lost in Portugal today. Marco Paulo.
Marco
Um,
Paulo.
who- yes, I mean he's a well-loved artist for years and decades. A big favourite of the Portuguese family
Yes.
in Portugal. So quite a loss to the Portuguese music scene. Probably worth looking up to get a sense of his. I mean, he just went through the ages, didn't he? He used to do songs from around the world, but in a Portuguese style. I think that was his trademark approach, wasn't it, Carolina?
Yes, and it was a very romantic type of music.
Wonderful.
And
Yeah.
the ones that you listened with your grandparents when
Oh,
you are just doing things, or with your mother when you're cleaning the kitchen when you were younger. So it's very, it's a Portuguese icon, let's say this way.
yeah, absolutely. And maybe when grandma's had a couple of glasses of Portuguese wine, she puts the Paolo on. How beautiful. Fun. And then wants to dance with Grandad. Fantastic. RIP then. Lots of love to friends and family and fans of Marco Paulo this evening, who was lost today in Portugal, to Portuguese culture. Thank you, Carolina, for being here. Any questions about renting or buying and how Carolina can help you with that, do let us know in the chat. Jeremy, also here. Good evening to you, Jeremy. Jeremy Klingers.
Good evening. Yes.
How are you? I'm very well. Yeah. How about yourself?
I'm fine, thank you. Yes.
Excellent. What's going on in the world of mortgages, my friend?
Increase in interest. Yeah, a lot of applications ongoing, so that's good.
Interest as in interest from clients, not interest
Yeah,
rate.
not interest rate. No,
Woo!
still
Okay.
lower rates as mentioned on the previous call. So that's good.
Yeah.
Think that banks are starting to be a bit more well, how can I put it without putting them in a bad light? A bit more
Careful now.
strict.
A bit more careful. A bit more
a
careful.
bit more careful with their document study
Yeah.
and accepting clients from certain countries.
Why
That's
do you think that is? What's that about?
Well, the truth is that there have been a lot of cases accepted with falsified documents, especially from the UK.
Oh,
yeah.
Don't look at me like that.
No, I'm looking away on purpose.
All right.
I don't want to blame anybody, but thank you for difficulty. No. No, there have been. I have received word from some banks, so that doesn't help, obviously.
No.
Yeah, I don't really know what else would maybe they know something more than we do. You hear some sounds of an upcoming recession. I don't agree, but well, anyways, it is what it is.
Okay, all right. So there may be delays as banks look a little bit harder at applications and maybe make it
Yeah,
a little bit more difficult for people than they have been
yeah.
recently. Right.
There is some slight delay in applications. They're not as fast as they were, and I also hear that that everybody has a lot of work. So yeah.
Okay, good to know. All right, so anticipate possible delays, but still a great, relatively speaking, a good country to finance in, right, Jeremy? Still looking pretty good.
Of course, of course. Banks are still more flexible than banks in Spain because I
Yeah.
also do mortgages in Spain.
Yes.
I still find Portuguese banks more flexible, more open to receiving new cases,
Yes.
and not being as strict and just saying no to
Yeah.
cases as in Spain, for example. And in Europe, these two countries are the only two countries lending to, well, to my knowledge, of all the European countries, lending to tax-paying residents or
Interesting.
non-residents,
Okay.
lending mortgages. So still a good, and we are the best country in Europe anyway.
There is
So
that, of course. We should always mention that every Dream Team
yeah,
session. And it's interesting
exactly.
you should mention the UK as well, because I saw a news item about the Wexit, which is wealthy individuals of the UK leaving the UK because of the new government and fear of what's going to be in the new budget. And a lot of them are, I mean, this particular article I'm looking at has listed 10 destinations that they're going to. And the top 5 are UAE, USA, funnily enough, second, Singapore, Canada, and Australia, as you might imagine. And then at number 6, you've got Italy, Switzerland at 7, 8 is Greece, and 9 is Portugal. Portugal makes the top 10 for Wexit high net worth individuals who are leaving the UK, and Japan is number 10. So well done, Portugal, for finding yourself in that company.
And is it above Spain,
Yeah,
Portugal?
Spain's not even in the top 10.
Oh wow! Because you used to go to Spain as
We did. You say
yeah.
you. I'm feeling the heat for the
I miss
Brits here tonight. Hey, what's he?
no, I absolutely adore Brits. That's
No, me too, me too.
yeah.
But you're right, and I think that over time, with some of the bureaucratic processes and challenges with owning property in Spain, the reputation has changed, and Portugal ranks more highly for Brits possibly as well. That's not based on any scientific research, but I think there's a general nod of approval from Jeremy there. Thanks for being here tonight. Get in touch with Jeremy if you're looking to get a mortgage here in Portugal. Last but not least, Daniel Reis of Reis and Pelicano. Good evening to you. Boa noite.
Hello, boa noite. All good?
Yeah, to the way. What's going on in law and politics, Daniel?
Well, things seem to quiet down a bit because the party in the opposition said that they would approve the budget. Now they're just discussing the nitty-gritty stuff, and things did tone down a bit. Well, that's in terms of politics, that's basically it. We are having some issues in the outskirts of Lisbon because people
Yes.
are protesting and steering things down. But I think that the police eventually will be able to control the situation. It doesn't seem to be out of hand. That's the main what we're seeing in the news today. It's just some protesters and people doing some nasty stuff. But well, it is what it is. That happens everywhere in the world.
It does, and as you say, it looks like the police seem to have that under control, and
Yep.
of course, it is top of the agenda for the president and the prime minister and the politicians at the moment. Interesting stuff, and as you might imagine, Shaker making the most of it at the same time too. So we are keeping an eye on that particular difficulty in and around the capital there. Thank you for being here, Daniel. Any questions about the law and buying homes here in Portugal, conveyancing? We can go to Daniel for those. Were there some changes in AL, or was that just like, the sort of stuff you see on a quiet news day?
Well, yes, basically the majority of the changes were reversion to the old law, because in October 2023, the last government did approve some changes that were basically bad for the industry of AL, and this new government wants to revert back to the law that existed around October 2023. So for people that have ALs or that were buying property to invest in ALs, I think this is a good news nonetheless. And at the end of the day, Lisbon and Porto, they do have restrictions on new AL buildings, So the areas that have the majority of the pressure, you will not be able to obtain a new AL license, or at least you'll face some restrictions in terms of areas where this can be done.
Okay.
Therefore, I think this is good, because treating the whole country as if it was Lisbon and Porto, this is a bad idea, because well, the rest of the country doesn't have such a pressure in terms of real estate, and just taking the full country as Lisbon and Porto is a bad idea.
Very good. Okay, thank you for that. So there are possible changes there. Keep an eye on that. And any questions generally about AL, we can ask Daniel. We have got questions about capital gains tax. I think this is probably Pedro territory. He's not with us tonight, but he will be at the meetup in Porto at the weekend. So if you're lucky enough to be in Porto for the Expats Portugal meetup, you can ask Pedro in person. Otherwise, Sai, I'm not sure if you'd want to tackle this one. Are you seeing that in the? Have a look in the chat there, Daniel, and let me know if that's.
I am. I think that we can tackle this at least in general terms. So let's say that you have a Portuguese tax residency, and you sell a home, and you are buying another home either in Portugal or in the EU. This is if you do it within 2 years. You will be able to reinvest that money and not have to pay any capital gains. So if it's just selling to reinvest to buy your another primary home, that's totally all right, as long as you change tax residency to that place and you do the right communication. So that is not taxed at all. The other way that this property gains or capital gains in a property sale can be taxed is the following. You're not a taxed resident, and then you're taxed at a flat rate of 28% on the full capital gain. And the capital gain in Portugal is basically described by the difference of the purchase to the difference of the sale, and you can deduct several expenses like realtors' invoices. So if you're paying commissions to realtors, this can be deducted. Notary fees, lawyers' fees as well, or invoices once it's connected to a property sale or a property purchase, they will be deducted on capital gains, as well as renovations done within the last 12 or 13 years. So there's some expenses that can be deducted on the capital gains. Again, if you're not a tax resident, a flat tax of 28%. If you are a tax resident, but that's not your primary residency, then the rules do change a bit, because if you're not reinvesting, if it's not your primary residency, but you are still a tax resident in Portugal, you will be taxed on 50% of the capital gain. So not the full capital gain, just half of it. But then instead of having a flat tax, you will go into what we call the brackets. So if you have a capital gain of 100K, even if you're just being taxed, let's say that the full capital gain is 200K, but you are a tax resident in Portugal, you're only taxed on 100K. And then you'll go into the highest bracket of the taxation here in Portugal, around 48%, because you've surpassed the 70, 80K that is the maximum tax bracket here in Portugal, and thus you'll pay according to your tax bracket. So it is nuanced. It's at least 3 different scenarios: no taxation at all, taxation at a flat tax of 28%, or just half of the capital gain, but it will go into your tax brackets, and you can just reach the maximum taxation bracket in Portugal. So it's nuanced, and it needs some careful analysis before you do, or after you do sell the property, but before you deliver the tax returns here in the country.
Brilliant, Daniel. There you go, Sai. That's a great answer to your question. And on that matter of renovation costs, very important to get the address right on the receipts and your NIF, okay? Because that's got to be really like belt and braces accurate, isn't it?
Correct. There's actually, for this reason, there's a difficulty in our operation sometimes, because when a client retains us, we don't know the full address of the property. We don't know the details of the property. So we face this on a day-to-day basis, because as our invoices as lawyers are deducted in capital gains, we need to really be specific on what is the address of the property, and what is the tax identification of the property, as well as the land registry of the property. This is all really specified and clearly identified in the invoice. So when the time comes, let's say 10 years from the time that the property was purchased, that invoice can still be deducted, and well deducted, because otherwise, if there's a doubt that that invoice doesn't correspond to those legal services or to those renovation services, then the tax authorities will not use that invoice, and it will not be discounted on a capital gain. So yes, indeed, you are right on the spot. Having the NIF, the address of the property, and the services really well described, it is a game changer in the possibility of using that invoice.
It could be quite a loss, couldn't it? And
Yes.
an old piece of paper, like a cigarette packet with 500 euros in cash, will not cut it. It's got to be a proper invoice if you want that deducted. Thank you, Daniel. That's brilliant. Okay, let's go to the chat then. I think that's everybody here this evening. Welcome, Dream Team. At nearly 9:30, but you've answered some fantastic questions there already, Daniel. So thank you for that. And open up a bit of a can of worms as well there, Nunu, on this insurance for people coming to your house. Do renters also need to have WC insurance? Now, I don't think that's insurance of the toilet, is it? Forgive me and help me out here, Nunu. What is WC insurance? That's the workers' cover, isn't it? Same thing we were talking about.
Workers' compensation.
Yeah, workers' compensation. Okay. So renters, it doesn't matter if you're renting or owning, does it? If you're employing that person, you need to have it.
Yes, right. That's all.
And also, house sitters or pet sitters, would you need it for those folks coming to your house?
It depends. There are some companies, if you hire a company to do this service, could be a painter, a gardener, maid, you don't need to do workers' compensation, because the company, by law, that hired them, by law, must have the workers' compensation settled.
Okay.
But if you hire not company X, but the person
directly,
yes, you need to insure.
Okay. And on this business of a house sitter or somebody coming to look after your pets, that's often not a commercial relationship. It's a kind of, it's a benefits package, isn't it? Would it be useful and advisable to have an insurance for those people while they're in your home?
Well, if you're not hiring, if you have a good home insurance, you may have some coverages, like a robust liability coverage.
Okay.
That could give you some comfort on that.
Yeah, okay. That's good to know. Alex also had a question. Might have to come back to that because I can't find it the way that it's been nested by Zoom here. And also, good feedback there about Kippertree. Perhaps Astrid will give us an update on Kippertree in a little while as well and answer that question directly for you. Interesting point, Tom. I'll return to that as well. Debbie, to Jeremy, what is the oldest age you can be to get a mortgage in Portugal? Also, what percentage is needed for a down payment? And does it count if you only look like you're in your 50s?
No.
Debbie might appreciate that. Right,
okay. So the oldest age until which you can lend in Portugal is still 75. There is one bank who goes until the age of 80. However, strict rules and regulations apply, so it's difficult for non-residents. Usually, very difficult. To go with that bank. The minimum deposit, in theory, banks lend until 80% loan to value. So that means that you would need a 20% deposit. Plus, don't forget the fees and taxes, please. Also very important. However, non-residents, banks tend to finance up to 70%. And so, yeah, if you can make it work with a 30% deposit, that would be great. Then you also get a sort of cleaner product, a mortgage product.
Yes.
You don't need to take out additional products with the bank.
Oh, in terms of life cover and other things they would require you to do.
Exactly. Just to give you 80%, so it makes it a more expensive product in the end for you. So that's a big upside, big advantage. But yes, if you really need the maximum loan to value, which is 80%, then we can always try to obtain 80% for you.
There you go. Brilliant, Jeremy. Thank you very much for Debbie there. And Yeah, it was Alex who was asking Nunu, does the apartment insurance policy cover the kind of insurance Nunu mentioned for the workers? I'm not sure. Do you know what that means, Nunu?
I understood that the question is if the home insurance could provide coverage to the workers' compensation.
Yes. Yeah.
The reply is no.
No, and that's what you were saying earlier on. These are distinct areas of insurance,
Yes.
aren't they? Yeah.
Yes. It's absolutely forbidden.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, interesting. Okay, and another part of his question is, I think you mentioned that we would need to buy workers' cover separately for each worker that comes to our apartment and pay 200 euros for each person. As an example, if I buy an air conditioning unit and someone comes to install it, then I have to add 200 euros. No, that's as a contractor from a company, isn't it? So you're not employing them directly.
Yes.
Okay, sounds a little excessive and unnecessary in that case, as we understand it. Anyways, as you put it there, Alex, in the States, I believe the workers themselves carry workers' cover insurance, so the client doesn't need to buy on. But it's an assumption here where it doesn't work in that way, but you don't have to cover every single worker coming into your house. It depends on which basis you're employing them. Am I correct in saying that, Nuno?
Sorry, could you repeat, because I was replying to the chat?
Yeah, no. Thanks for working hard behind the scenes. But it depends on how that person is employed. If you're employing them directly, then you do need to cover them. But if
Yes.
they're working for a company, as you said before, and they're coming in as a contractor to somebody else to do a service, not so much.
Yes, correctly. And to try to understand where this could, what this could reach, is that imagine that someone stay with disability, because during the displacement between their house or their home to our home to do the work, just an accident happened, something happened. So even though that is not in our home, the person, the professional, is still insured. And if this person is injured severely and get a disability, we are the ones that individually we need to pay thousands and thousands of euros to indemnity this person.
Wow,
So
because they were on their way to work at your house.
yes.
Well, so that's something people should be aware of here. Thank you for
And
elaborating on
And
that.
just a correction, I talked about 150 or 200 euros, but depending on how much the person is earning,
Yeah.
could be 70 euros a
Yes, right.
year. So it depends. Okay.
Depends on the level, the income level of the professional.
Yes.
Thank you, Nunu, for that. Right. To you, finally, Gilda, do we require multiple sources of income to satisfy D7 criteria, repassive income, or is one enough?
Hello. So one source of income is enough, but you need to have in mind that this source of income needs to be equal or higher to the Portuguese minimum wage, which is 820 euros. Also, apart from this only source of income that you may have, you need to show that you have some savings.
Right.
Around 50K.
Okay,
in
thank you
total.
very much. So it's not the amount of income sources, it's the total amount of income that's coming in. That's
Yes.
most important. Okay. Thanks, Gilda, for that. Let's stay with you and go to YouTube. Osama's asking, hi, guys. I'm waiting for a response from the embassy in Tunisia of a D2 service provider for 8 months now. Is this normal? And how long do you think I'll have to wait? Can you make a guess on that? And is that normal, Gilda? Tunisia.
Yes, from Tunisia, unfortunately, it's normal.
Oh, okay.
You should try to get in. I'm sure you already did that, but you must keep trying getting in contact with them, or ask if something is missing in the process to see if they can put their hands on the process.
There you go. All right. Thanks, Gilda, for that. Thank you, Tom, for your comments. We'll come back to all of those in due course. Tom Smith in Ohio tonight is with us. And yes, Ray Burnell, new to Zoom, new to us by the sound of it. And I think enjoying life in the Algarve or enjoying visiting the Algarve. May you submit some questions? Absolutely, Ray. You've given us a bit of background there in the Zoom. Please, yeah, be forthcoming with a question as well. I suspect that's for Gilda as well there. Hi, Derek and Linda. Lovely to see you in Lagos this evening. And Oh, yes. Alex continues. Do we have to buy a separate insurance for the cleaning lady? I think I can answer that. Then yes. And Nuno agrees with me as well on that. And I think that probably clarifies everything from Nuno's point of view this evening. Astrid, can I call on you? You very kindly, and this was because of Gilda, we got some clarification, I think, last week or the week before on membership of Expats Portugal. So perhaps it's worth talking about that and what's going on at Kippertree at the moment as well to answer Debbie's questions earlier on.
Okay, I did.
We've got an image, haven't we, in the chat there with
I
the
did,
level.
but I can't open it because I'm not an admin anymore or a host anymore, so I can't share anything. But that's okay. I did share a screen, a tile in the chat. So just outlining the opportunities to join the site. So we do have a free membership, which gives you very basic options.
Is that it there?
Oh, there you go. Oh, thank you.
My pleasure.
So community member, then we've got the EP premium member, and that is a list of all the things that you can unlock at that status. And then you've got a consultation as well, so you can get at least an hour of our time to discuss your needs. And if you've got any information that you want to pick our brains about moving to Portugal, you can do that there. We're very proud to say that we've been in the marketplace now since 2002. So we're one of the websites that were developed even before Portugal was a hot place to come to. So we're very proud of the history there. And we have nothing but 5-star reviews. So come on board, support us a little, and yeah, we'd love to get to know you better.
Very good. Be the first tonight to give a 6-star review, okay? Over there. Don't break the website. Don't break the website. Okay. I'm talking of websites, Kippertree.
Yes. So I'm frantically working behind the scenes on Kippertree at the same time. I will share in the chat as well. We're building our email database. So if you want to receive regular updates on the real estate market here in Portugal, please join us there. And yeah, watch this space. I think by 2025 we should have the site really how we want it. So we're very excited about bringing really good quality homes to our audience. So
yes,
yeah, watch this space.
I received the first update with some of those beautiful homes on there with a property of the week. So yeah, make sure you're on the newsletter for kippertree.com. Cheers, Astrid. Thank you very much. Sarah, you're still here. Let's say goodbye, bon night to you, and we'll look forward to your company in Porto at the weekend. I think you got a final word, the comment that you put into the chat there.
Yes, that please do get in touch. It's completely free to have a conversation, but it's always worthwhile to do the preparation. We always say, like, it's very difficult to give timeframes of when you should be looking into things, but there's definitely a few aspects, you know, obviously tax, there's foreign exchange, things you should be looking into before you move to Portugal, just to make that process easier for when you move, when you're looking to buy property, when you're looking to rent, when you're moving any money. It just means you know your options. It gives you more flexibility with the budget, but also the process, because a lot of times we see clients struggle when they come to Portugal to move money from, say, America. Their banks have limits, or there's sort of compliance issues, and it can hold up payments. So the sooner you speak to us, the more that we can put these things in place to make sure that you get your money where it needs to be on time. And
a free guide as well available. All the contact details are on the screen. Take a photo of that now, because we're going to say thank you to you, Sarah. A good evening to you, and thanks for being here this evening.
No problem. Yes, we have a moving money to guide. So if it's really early stages for you, you can request the copy of the guide with more information about the things that I've been talking about on the Dream Team show as well.
Very good. Bon night. See you soon, and have a great time in Porto.
Bye. See
All
you
right, ciao. Okay, thank you, Debbie, as well. A couple of questions for Nuno when we get a minute. US Medicare. Now, I'm sure Nuno does chat to people about the interface with Medicare. Can you be more specific, Debbie? And do you have any general points to make, Nuno, about working with Medicare in the United States?
I just basically, somebody in the earlier.
Yes, I didn't get to that, did I?
Had a question about that. And so I'm actually going to call, I have a Medicare representative in the US, and I'm going to talk to her this week. What I'm thinking of doing is, so the person in the chat earlier wanted to know, can they just get rid of all their Medicare? What I am thinking of doing is downgrading my expensive but wonderful supplement to just Medicare Advantage, just to stay in the game. but it may be something you don't know anything about. And I do have private insurance with MGen through Winsurance.
Very good. Okay, so Nuno, if not tonight, then next week, because you're our star for the webinar next week on Thursday, aren't you?
Yes, but regarding Medicare, I know very little. So basically, also don't confuse with Medicare, because there is an insurance in Portugal called Medicare that is nothing to be with the US Medicare. Okay.
Right. I meant just the US. I'm thinking of dropping down to Advantage just to save the monthly money, because
Yeah.
I don't really plan on going back, but you never know. So I want to hang on to something.
Very good. Very good. All right. And I mean, we might pick that up a little bit more next week. Sorry, go on, Debbie.
Oh, just that I am going to speak to my representative this week. And so I may have some things I can bring up at next week's stream.
Yes, she's on the panel again next week. Fantastic. Good job. So yeah, thank you for that. Would appreciate your view as and your insight as a subscriber to Medicare next week when we do the insurance special with Nuno. That's fantastic. Well done, Peda. Already registered with Kippertree there. And still more questions. Denise, I think we've nailed it, haven't we, with the workers cover? Denise, if we haven't, do let me know. But I think you've been talking to Nuno behind the scenes about that as well. It is a little bit confusing when you're not used to it, but I think we've basically covered that. If we haven't, as I say, do let me know again. Ray, thank you for your question. And I'll come to that in just a moment. Sai was in with golden visa renewals. What's the update there, please, Daniel, if any?
Well, the portal has been working intermittently, but it has been working, and we've recently been able to do a renewal online, which, pardon, for me, it's a bit strange because, well, when the renewals are being done online, there's no documentation being assessed, and one of the conditions to have a golden visa renewed is the guarantee that you still maintain the investment here in Portugal. And the authorities were not checking this out. Were not able to perceive if the investment was still here in Portugal. So this was just a temporary measure to resolve some of the backlog that AMA or CEF at the time was having. And it was not something to keep on existing. So indeed, the automatic renewals were just a way to fix the backlog, and not something that I'm expecting to carry on in the future. But until quite recently, it was working. So it didn't stop working in the end of 2023. As recently, I think as August or July of this year, we had a renewal done via a golden visa. So indeed, it was still working quite recently.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. There you go, Sai. And I've got a great question from Mirella, which I know the answer to. It's a real kind of cryptic question. Why on some real estate portals the description of Thursday in relation to property descriptions, e.g. on Idyllish? I know this. Why would it say Thursday on a property listing, Dream Team members? Does anybody want to pick that up? They're all smiling. They know why. Who wants to take that?
Well, a quinta
Yes.
it can be translated as a farm or as Thursday. So that's probably a misconception or a translation error. Isn't this the story behind it?
I'm so pleased I knew that. Now, which came first, Thursdays or farms?
I would say farms, because,
Okay.
well, without any farms, people will not eat.
Exactly. We had farms. We needed to eat before we could tell the different months of or different days of the week. Fantastic. That's a great question, Miriam. I love that. Let's go to you, Gilda, who obviously knew that as well. And we're going to roll a few into one here. A bit of feedback from Matthew. Carolina Machado was awesome with a 5-heart review. If you could pass that on there. Wanted to thank you and your team, Gilda. The wife and I had our IMA appointment and were completed. I just received my residency card in 2.5 weeks. Fantastic news there. Thank you for that feedback. I'd love to get good feedback. And we had
not everything is bad.
Okay,
some things are still working.
Yes, indeed. 2.5 weeks. That's great news, isn't it? And
Yes.
there was a question, I think, was it Gina who was asking about the nomad visa, how to set up a consultation? And somebody else was asking in the chat as well, where do I begin the process? You're looking at her and it's Gilda and her company who you should start the process with. Anything to add about that? Oh, yeah, Gina, should I set a separate consultation for more information on the nomad visa? This is amazing information, says Gina. That's the consultation with you, isn't it? Your first one that you do, the preliminary, Gilda.
Yes, we always do a first consultation to see which type of visa is better for the person that is trying to move to Portugal. So it might be the digital nomads, and then on that conversation we do that evaluation, and then we send the step plan.
Yes, very good. Okay. And that's for you as well, Ray. I can't find your question now, but you were asking where to start. Oh, broad question. Here we go. Ray, I found it now. Where do I begin to start the process? As I say, you're looking at her. I'm hoping to list my 4-bedroom in the spring. Interest in completing as much due diligence as I can at the moment. My interest is to purchase a catamaran as my permanent residence. Now, that's interesting. Alvor is my destination of choice. Can you have a boat as a permanent residence? Is that the first time we've asked that?
No, we had problems with that before.
Oh, okay. So
it didn't work for SEF then. So I believe it's going to be the same with IMA.
okay, all right. That hope that's not too much of a blow to your plans there, Ray. But better to know now, I guess, than to assume that and then find yourself in a difficult position later on. Jose Cruz, thanks as ever for your insight and input. You're saying, I think that there are very few. Yeah, there is no benefit to having Medicare if you're permanently living in Portugal and have no intentions of moving back. So I hope we can call on you as well next week, Jose, for a little bit more when we have Nuno's and his insurance webinar next week. Thank you very much. Bonoit from the Squire of the Shires over there on YouTube. And is there anyone who could, for a fee, help me with the necessary paperwork and process for taking our household goods into Portugal from the UK in a hired UK 7.5-ton box lorry? Not quite sure what you mean, DOC there. Is that the cost of driving it, hiring it, or the customs clearance that you're talking about over there? Do let us know. Melissa, I think a different Melissa over on YouTube. Is there an upside to buying property as a resident rather than as a non-resident? What do you see, Jeremy? Thanks, Gilda, for the time being. What do you see there differences between resident and non-resident?
Depends. Also in regards to the for the future, if you're thinking about selling and the profit tax, which Danielle has perfectly explained. In terms of mortgages, sorry.
I think Ray was unmuted there. If you've got another question, Ray, just pop your hand up, or just let us know in the chat, and I'll come to you.
Okay. So in terms of mortgages, as a resident buying a primary residence, you could finance up to 90%. So that could be a big advantage. The property transfer tax is different. The brackets are different for first main residence or secondary residences. Okay? So there's more or less €1,000 difference between the two.
Okay.
And the property transfer tax. So there's not big advantages. The biggest one would be more financing.
All right, very good. Thank you, Jeremy, on that. There you go, Melissa. That's the answer to your question. Do you have a contact for accountancy services to obtain a green invoice for self-employment? I'm guessing, Lorraine, you mean help getting into that system of issuing green receipts. Would Pedro do something like that, Gilda, and assist people on that level?
Yes, we do. We do.
Oh, okay.
There is, I don't know if you have already opened your activity with the tax office, because this step needs to be done first, and then we can help you how to issue the receipts.
Very good. Okay. And Pedro, with his doctorate in how to use the Finances portal, will be able to help people, because it's a complicated bit of software. And green receipts have changed a little bit in the last little while, interestingly. So there are ongoing improvements all the time. Are we beyond all the cyber attacks now? Has everything recovered, Gilda, as far as you're aware? Some say that IMA was attacked and nobody noticed. Is there any truth in that rumor?
Yes, because I believe yes, because Ivan seems
Go.
to be attacked every day, so it doesn't make
All
a
right.
difference.
Yeah, okay, all right. Forgive me if anyone's watching from Iowa this evening, but it was an open goal. It was a sporting striker's chance there. Okay, Gilda, thank you very much for that. I'm going to come to our concluding question. We've got 10 minutes. So, Ray, did you want to ask a question specifically of our panel? Please go ahead if you do. And you're on YouTube and live streaming, by the way.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Great. So if I was to purchase a boat in Portugal, in Alvor or Portimão or some area in between,
Yep.
how long can I remain in Portugal? Considering I have an EU passport, an Irish passport, also a Canadian.
Ah, interesting. Okay, so you wouldn't be becoming a resident. You'd be visiting Portugal on your boat. Yeah?
Yes,
Yeah, okay. So there you go, Gilda.
more or less, yes. See,
Okay, so if the thing
if I
is,
could just add, sorry. If I
if
could just
you,
add, my intent is to sell my home in Canada
Mhm.
and move to Portugal. Rather than purchase a home, I would rather purchase a boat and use it as a permanent residency in Portugal, in Alvor. I've met several people that are living on boats in Alvor, different nationalities, Netherlands, France, for example. And they anchor their boat in Alvor on a yearly basis. So I'm just wondering, would I have to leave Portugal, or could I rent a property, apartment or studio, and still maintain the boat and the rental?
okay, so if you are an Irish citizen, it's easier because you can stay in Portugal. However, after 3 months, you need to make your registration as an European citizen living in Portugal. And for that registration, you need to show either a rental agreement or a deed from a house. So I think that your idea is good to rent a studio. And then you can come with the boat, rent a studio, make your registration, and then you will have your crew, which is the registration for European citizens, for 5 years.
Okay, so, but in the meantime, starting off the process, I would need to apply for a Portuguese residency.
No, you can do it after when you come.
Okay. See,
Yeah,
I'm just trying to.
You're not going to be
Danielle, but
applying for a visa.
you know more about boats. Do you think that there is any procedure? Yeah.
I wanted to ask one thing. Where is the boat registered?
Oh, I haven't purchased the boat yet.
Okay.
I'm
My
going
advice is
to
the following:
use-
buy a
I'm
boat
gonna
that
use
is
the money.
registered inside the EU because of VAT-related situations.
Well,
Because
I'm
if the
hoping
boat-
that,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm hoping I can find a boat that's registered in Portugal.
Okay. Well, I've dealt with boat registration in Portugal, and it's cumbersome. It's a lot of bureaucracy. There's a lot of Portuguese people or people living in Portugal that are flagging the boat in Poland because it's way easier. If the boat is below 15 meters, it's easy to flag a boat in Poland.
Wow.
But my advice is indeed have a boat that is registered inside the EU, because it doesn't matter if it's Portuguese, Polish, Spanish, or any other type of flag as long as it's EU. Because if it's outside of EU and you spend more than 6 months here and you are a tax resident here in Portugal, then you should, well, basically register the boat inside the EU in Portugal, and you will need to pay VAT on the boat. So this can be quite expensive. And my advice is search for a boat that is flagged with a European flag. As for having the address in the boat, well, it's going to be difficult. I do know some people that can do it, but they usually have some friends in the marina that can receive their mailing and their correspondence in the marina. So if you are staying in a marina and you can, well, be friends with those people, that may be a reality, but for the first registration of the crew, that's complicated. Once you do the first registration and you are able to change your tax residency to the marina, that's all right. But having your tax registration in the marina, well, you may lose some correspondence. So there's some ups and downs on this one. And the safest way is to rent a cheap place just to have a permanent address.
I do have some friends in Alvor that are expats from the UK and other places, the Netherlands. The UK individual, he has property in Alvor.
Sounds like a good start, right?
Airbnb that he purchased 2 years ago.
All right.
Okay.
So I'm
That's
sure
a
I
starting point.
use his as a mailing address.
I hope that's a good start, Ray. I have to move on because we're coming towards the end of the session tonight. But join us again next week. Reach out to Daniel and to Gilda. And crew, by the way, CRUE is the paperwork, not the boat crew, in case there was any confusion there for any other ocean-going people on the call tonight. Thanks, Ray, for being here. And good luck.
Thanks for your input.
Not at all. Good luck with that process. Finally, then, panel. We talked about retiring in Portugal, and as Portuguese people, you must have your favorite recommendations of where to retire to. What's the ideal retirement destination here in Portugal? Where would you go, for example, when that day comes? Not long now, folks? Actually, probably seems like ages away, doesn't it? And let's start with Carolina, because you talked to a lot of people about finding them their ideal place to live, Carolina. Orang has come up tonight, and Tom reckons Costa de Caparica, not Costa de Caparica, Costa de Caparica. Where would you recommend? What would be your top three, perhaps, Carolina?
To retire.
A retirement, the ideal retirement.
I would suggest like Douro.
Yes, good choice. Okay. So
surrounded by nature, all the greens. It's true you don't have the sea, but you have the river, and it's very peaceful. So Douro.
I'll take it. I'm not sure I need to ask anybody else, but I will do anyway. Daniel, where would you ideally retire to?
Algarve for sure, because of the good weather.
Okay.
And if you're not keen on good weather, but you like forest, then Jerez.
Oh, yes. Great recommendation. The lesser known Jerez on the border there in the north with Spain. Fabulous place to be. A little bit chilly. So make sure you pack your thermals for your retirement up there as well. Jeremy, it's got to be Algarve all the way, I would have thought, for you. It's not far for you to retire, I wouldn't have thought, with all the money in the mortgage world.
I thought you were referring to my age, but
no, not at all. I'm just thinking of like an early retiring.
I already feel retired, yes, and I'm already in the Algarve. So Daniel, let's drink a beer here.
Gin and tonic, golf, the ideal retirement, and maybe go out on that boat of Daniel's out into the Med there. Fantastic. Thank you, Jeremy. Algarve then for Jeremy. What about you, Nuno? North of Portugal?
Well, as long as I feel strong and healthy, definitely surrounded by green, woods, mountains, for sure. So Douro or Jerez or central Portugal. But if I start needing some healthcare, definitely closer from a city.
Yes, stay in Lisbon for that sort of care. Hopefully, fingers crossed, you won't need that, mate. Thank you very much for being here tonight. You've been busy, especially with the workers cover. And finally, I've been telling people all week about they may get a call from you, Gilda, if they promised you dinner or a gin and tonic by their swimming pool when they finally got their house. So they are on standby with that. Where would you recommend they retire?
Well, it's very funny because the place that I like the most and where I imagine myself retiring is the Alentejo, and no one chooses Alentejo to go. So
it's not because you're retiring there, though, is it?
Maybe, I don't know. But it's good. Maybe it will be only for me then.
I would agree with you. Villanova de Milfonches or further inland, it's the best winemakers, right? And the lovely experience you can have with the wine production. What are they called? The vineyards and all those lovely experiences with the wine there. That might be something to do with it, I'm guessing, for you, Gilda.
Gilda, you know that I'm an Alentejo fan. I've got a house there.
In
the
Alentejo?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. You haven't invited me.
Uh-oh.
Like all the others. Well, at least the others invite me, but then It doesn't happen.
That's
But
going in the
with
book.
you, Astrid, you didn't even invite it. I
Write
didn't
it
know
down,
that.
Gilda. Write it down in that book with all the other names. Maybe a second book is needed now. Okay, all right. That's that. Sorry, Astrid. Over to you.
Thank you. Okay, after that one, Gilda, it's not that I haven't invited you, it's just I haven't done it yet.
No,
That's
is
all.
that one in Castelo de Vide? No.
Yeah,
Yes,
still
please.
David.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I knew
Yes.
you had that place. Still,
Yes.
you have never invited me, but
No, we have a tiny house on there, so it's not like I can have lots of
oh,
people come and stay. So it's
Bloody
it's pretty
Gilda.
small. Anyway,
Well, yeah.
next week we've got a health insurance and healthcare and insurance update. Now I think that Nuno can't make it next week, but he has one of his team members who's going to do the presentation. So Nuno's got some other things that he needs to attend to. You can RSVP for that in the calendar at the moment. That's on the website at the moment. And for those of you that we're going to see on Saturday in Porto for our meetup, can't wait to see you. Make sure you come and say hi. And I think that's about it for now.
Very good. Thanks, Astrid. Have a great week. Enjoy the rest of your evening and expect a call from Gilda in the next couple of weeks or so, everybody who made that promise. Take care. Bye for now. Thank